Good evening, New York 14. My name is Rene Castellanos, and I'm with the Office of Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Thank you for joining our town hall. First, just a few notes of housekeeping. If you have any questions, which, as we've seen earlier, I know you guys do, you may write them down on the slips that you received. If you still have those paper slips afterwards, just find a staff member and give them to them. Later on in the presentation, we will be having a sort of Q&A session as well. For those of you joining virtually, you can email your questions to aoc.townhall@mail.house.gov. Again, that's aoc.townhall@mail.house.gov. You can also call 718-662-5970. That phone number is being manned, so if you have any questions, feel free to call there as well. For today's town hall, the Congresswoman will share the latest updates on the debt ceiling negotiations, our work on asylum seekers, a friendly reminder on passports, updates on how to redeem tax credits for EVs and appliance upgrades, and finally, our work to fund local projects. Like I said earlier, we will then open it up for a Q&A session from the constituents. Please keep your questions limited to 1 minute to allow us to get as many questions as possible. For any questions we cannot address, we will be available afterwards to assist. We're joined this evening by Queens Borough President Donovan Richards. I invite the Borough President to the stage for his remarks.
All right, is Queens in the house?
Yeah.
All right, it's great to be here this evening, and let me start off by thanking our woman for not only hosting this, but all of the great work that she's doing in Washington, D.C., and certainly for her partnership in really moving our borough forward. And I don't have to tell you about the challenges we face coming through this pandemic and how we've simply said we're not simply going to build back, but we're going to build back better for our borough. Just some brief updates I wanted to share. Our Congresswoman has really been a firm partner, and I know she's going to talk about many community projects that she's brought the bacon home to Corona for. But we are working extremely tightly with her and her office and many of our other elected officials to really invest in many corners of Corona, Jackson Heights, East Elmhurst, and other parts of Queens. Thus far, as the borough president, we've secured about $200 million to distribute into things like healthcare, into our parks, into housing, to really make sure that we're building back Queens holistically. I'll end in just saying, because I know we want to get to the Congresswoman, I don't want to belabor this, just some key areas we've been focused on with the Congresswoman, Elmhurst Hospital being a big one, where we put in close to about $13 million into Elmhurst Hospital, where we're going to build out a new NICU unit. We're doing some operational rooms, and then right across the street, investing in our parks like Frank O'Connor Park. We're also going to be heavily investing in education this year, over $30 million going into our schools across the borough to make sure that we really, with the clap for that, we have to make sure we're not just simply talking about making sure that our kids have, and we can have all the rhetoric in the world, but we need to make sure that every corner of this borough is seeing investments in its schools, and then just in terms of building out community centers. And I know the Congresswoman and I partnered on building out Chaya's Community Center. I put up $1 million in that. I know she'll talk about that. And then we're working with Make the Road, in which who will also develop another community center right here in Corona. With that being said, it is great to be here on this evening to hear from you, because you are the most important stakeholders that we have to deal with. We need to hear your voice on issues, and we don't like to pretend that we know it all as elected officials. Hearing equals accountability and transparency and ideas. So please make sure you're sharing those ideas. In closing, we're going to be holding something called Borough Hall on Your Block in both Community Boards 3 and 4 in a few weeks. We look forward to seeing you out there. You might have heard of Ginny on the block. It's J-Lo. It's Donnie on the block when I do it. So we're going to be out here in August having a myriad of different events and celebrating many of the things the Congresswoman has contributed to as well. So with that being said, congratulations on a great town hall. You could be anywhere as we head into Memorial Weekend, but you are here, and that speaks to the commitment that you have for your community, and certainly the commitment that our Congresswoman has to not just our city, our borough, but to our entire country. With that being said, God bless you all. I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Borough President, for providing your remarks and for being here tonight. Now I invite Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez to give her remarks.
Thank you so much. How's everyone doing today? It's so wonderful to see you all. Thank you to our Queensborough President, Donovan Richards, for coming. We so appreciate it and all the work that you do. As the Borough President said, I am so thrilled and happy to see everyone here. I mean, even earlier this week, we had set the date for the town hall, and I was like, this has been a very long month in Washington, as some of you have maybe seen in the news. And so this was really one of the only opportunities that we've had to be back home. And so I was like, man, it's Memorial Day weekend. I mean, we'll do it. I don't know how many people are going to turn out. And we have a gym full of constituents. So I'm so happy and thrilled that you all are here. So thank you so much. I think we're going to have we're going to have this come up soon. But I wanted to go through a little bit and cover some of the key issues that we've been facing, both as a country, as a community, and as a city, and give some insight as to what we've been seeing, sharing some of our thoughts on things, and to also answer any of your questions. So as we saw, we had some of the subjects up there. We're going to talk about the debt ceiling. We're going to talk about the asylum seekers in the city. We're going to talk about passports a little bit. I think it's really important to share some information on that with you all. Some tax credits that we are starting to roll out from the Inflation Reduction Act, as well as some of the community projects that myself and the team here have been able to secure, not just for the entire district, but right here in Corona as well. So let's dig right into it. And I want to first talk about the debt limit negotiations. Now, many of you all may have been seeing what's been going on in the news. This is a very serious issue, And I cannot stress enough how not normal this is. I have to say, I believe that a lot of kind of the mass media have been covering this as though it's just another Washington fight, and it really is not. It is not normal to negotiate or try to fight over the debt limit, because what the debt limit is about paying for the programs that have already been voted on and authorized, which, by the way, are the programs that Republicans have already voted for and authorized. So what's happening is that they have run up a bill, and it's time to pay that bill, and now they're trying to not pay that bill in order to try to secure cuts to our essential services and other really critical programs. So this is not a normal thing. The consequences of not raising the debt limit are very grave, and they are very immediate, and they can affect all of us as normal people. This is not like, oh, this is going to be a big problem just for Wall Street. This is an issue for ourselves, because once we go past that debt limit, then what happens is that we stop paying our bills. And what bills that don't get paid are randomized. It's not like there are certain things that get cut first and other things that get cut second. It's randomized. And so if we rely on Medicare, on Social Security checks, on SNAP, WIC, EBT, on any sort of federally funded programming for education, infrastructure, you name it, there could be consequences for it. Federal programs and services, air traffic control, critical infrastructure, all of this has the potential to become disrupted, which is why the debt limit has never been negotiated. This is why we do not do this. Democrats approve it under Trump. We approved it. This is not a normal thing to be politicized, because it is irresponsible to politicize this. So it's very important. And not only that, it's that, you know, when you hear these talking points about we need to address our spending, we need to do this, we have those debates in the budget process and in the government funding process. But we do not have those debates in the debt limit negotiation, because again, this is about paying for bills that have already been voted for and authorized. And by the way, when we talk about what is driving our debt, the number one driver of the US debt are the Trump and Bush tax cuts. Period. Period. There is no, if you want to even out that math, you have to repeal the tax cuts on yachts and private jets that they authorized in 2017. If we want to balance these books, then the only way that we do that is by addressing the very thing that exploded this debt to begin with. And you hear sometimes Kevin McCarthy or some of these folks going around trying to compare our national budget to like a credit card. But it is the absolute most upside down, backwards, wrong metaphors that he has been using. But if we do want to boil it down to a metaphor, if you have costs, you also have income, right? And so if you have a bill that you want to pay, it's okay to pay that bill if you have the income to cover it. And traditionally, we have had the income to cover it. What happens is that when you cut taxes dramatically on the wealthiest of the wealthiest people in this country, we dramatically reduce our income. And that is what happened in 2017 with the 2017 Trump tax scam, and also way back in the day, also with the Bush tax cuts as well. And so if we want to balance our books, because when they talk about cutting spending, I want to tell you something. We said, okay, you want to cut spending? We're open to that. Let's cut some of the military budget. Yeah. Let's cut some of the military budget if we want to cut spending. But you know what they said? No. They said, we will not touch military spending. In fact, we want to make sure that that continues to go up, even though we withdrew from Afghanistan, right? And so what Republicans are doing in this negotiation is that they're saying it's about one thing, but what it's really about is about punishing the poor and working class people in the United States. And so what we're going to do is that we're going to continue to push this, and we're not going to take no for an answer. And so what we want to do is put some of those cuts on the table, put revenue raisers on the table, and make sure that we strengthen the president's hand in doing this. So what we want to do of what's going on here. And the political landscape of what's happening is that Kevin McCarthy does not have the votes to negotiate.
Second most in the United States. You're trying to go to war against Russia, and you're saying, oh, they're spending so much on the military. When they were deciding the military budget, you didn't give anything. You didn't push back at all. People like me pushed back.
So we always got to keep it interesting, right? So this is what we're saying, right? And so Republicans are trying to say, oh, we're negotiating. They are not negotiating. They are hostage taking, and they are holding the entire country's regular working people, and they're trying to extort and hold the entire U.S. economy hostage in order to make these cuts. On top of that, it's really important to talk about how nonsensical what they're proposing is, because if this actually was about debt reduction or reducing spending, the things that they're actually proposing don't reduce spending at all. What they're asking for is to introduce something known as work requirements for food and other kinds of social programs. First of all, work requirements actually already exist in our food program. I oppose those too. We're actually one of the only developed nations in the world that requires those kinds of work requirements for basic food assistance. But besides that, when you actually look at programs like SNAP, WIC, EBT, about 92% of people who are able to work do work. Our problem is that we subsidize corporations that pay below a living wage with food benefits. And so so what we do is that people are allowed to work at large corporations like Walmart and Amazon and these huge corporations that employ thousands of people, and those people are paid so little that they still need public assistance even though they're working 40 hours a week. And that's what needs to end in this country. And so these are some of the critical issues. So even when you actually implement and when you look at the debt and the cost, quote unquote, cost savings of introducing further work requirements, you get the assessment of that, and you have these big organizations and the CBO, and they score it. And you know how much money it saves? Almost nothing over 10 years. Because for all the people that you might dissuade or kick off, you have to hire so many people to go through all this unnecessary bureaucratic paperwork that there's enormous amounts of cost to implement programs like that, like work requirements. And so the things that they are introducing don't actually meet the goal of what they say they're trying to do, which is reducing costs. And so really, we need to make sure that we hold ourselves to account, and what I've been doing and what many other Democrats have been doing has also been trying to hold the White House to account and to say, don't give up. Do not give up. We can fight for working people. We can stand for working people. Now, I also, there is a delicate balance. This is a very, very high stakes scenario, and it's very important that we make sure that we steer our way out of this. But we can steer our way out of this without enabling this reckless and irresponsible behavior. And that is our central goal here. I just got back from Washington last night, and it's really kind of like up in the air. It's like one day it's over here to the White House, then they bring it to the House, and they bring it to the Senate. But the good thing about this scenario is that Kevin McCarthy does not have the votes, even within his own caucus, to pass his proposal. He is very politically weak right now. Very politically weak. In fact, some of the latest estimates are that even if he got almost everything that he wanted, he would still need 100 to 150 Democrats to vote in the House for what he wants. That is how weak he is. And so we have to call their bluff. It's all bark, no bite, and we cannot allow ourselves to be bullied into hurting working and poor people. We won't do it, we won't stand for it, and it is beyond time to tax the rich in the United States of America. Moreover, politically, not only is that their math, but we've got math on our side too. We started to deploy a mechanism known as a discharge petition. And here's what a discharge petition means. It's actually something that was used to help pass the Civil Rights Act back in 1965, which is... 1964. Yes, 1964. Thank you. Thank you. So what we've got here is that we've got something known as a discharge petition. And when the leadership of a party doesn't want to bring legislation to the floor, what you can do is try something known as a discharge petition. And you take that legislation and you say, in order to pass any piece of legislation in the House, you need 218 votes. That's the magic number for an official House majority. So you get a petition to bring that bill to the floor, and if you can get 218 members of Congress to sign that petition, it can subvert that block and go straight to the floor for a vote. House Democrats have 213 members because people mobilized across the country, and while Republicans have a majority, it's a very, very narrow majority. And so we were able to get every single House Democrat to sign the discharge petition. We have 213 signatures as of yesterday. And so what that means is that discharge petition is to just pass the debt limit, no negotiations, just do it and then we can negotiate about all that other stuff during the budget fight. So we have 213, and we just need 5 swing seat Republicans in order to sign that petition in order for us to end this thing. There are 18 Republicans in Biden-held seats. And so this is an organizing opportunity. There are folks that are, working around that, and that's the current state of play. Right now, Congress is on an on-call schedule, which means that at any moment, we are subject to a 24-hour notice, and once we get that notice, we all fly back to Washington in order to resolve this. The Treasury Secretary gives us until June 5th until we hit that debt limit. That update was just provided today. So we have several days in order to see if we can resolve this. And we were just caucusing in Washington last night in order to figure out some of our next steps here. I do believe that we're going to get progress here. And I do believe that the more involved everyday people are with their representation and making sure that they're engaged and calling and saying, pass this thing without any cuts to critical programs, the further along we can get. And so people have started organizing around that, and it's really, really wonderful to get the input from you all into our office as well. So that's the latest update on the debt limit. If you all have any additional questions, we're happy to answer that towards the end. And then we'll go to our next topic here, which is asylum seekers. There's been a lot on this topic, and there's a lot of different things to discuss. So I wanted to make sure that we just, I want to hit some of the broader contours of the issue, and I want to discuss about what our office specifically has been tackling with respect to this, but I also recognize there's going to be a lot of other issues, and so if you have questions about that, we're happy to answer those as well. So what's going on? We have something known as Title 42, which was implemented during COVID under the Trump administration. And it was a border policy that was used under the guise of public health, but was largely weaponized for deportations. Now, it was set to expire around earlier this month. And when Title 42 was set to expire, everybody thought that border crossings were going to explode. But what we actually saw was the opposite. That a lot of that panic was misplaced. And what we saw is that many border crossings actually decreased since May 11th. Now, one of the things that we've been seeing, though, is that we are starting to receive, and we have been receiving, asylees here in New York City, and there have been capacity issues with that. Now, I want to talk a little bit about what we've been doing and what we believe one of the key parts of the solution is on some of this jammed up and capacity issues that we've been having. Now, the first thing I want to say is that right now, economically, we actually do need an immigrant population. We do. There is no doubt about it. It is part of our economy, and it is an economic necessity. I want to talk specifically about the New York economy. Right now, we have a very strong agricultural sector upstate, and our local farm owners and our local agricultural industry needs workers desperately. This is an environmental issue as well. It is a food justice issue. It is a basic everything issue. And so we actually have work capacity, not just in the agricultural sector, but also in the hospitality sector, the hotel sector. Unions have come together, business leaders have come together, and they said, we need people. We need people to work. We need to fill these jobs. And we are doing a lot of this. However, and on top of that, when asylees are here and they're in shelter, the number one thing that they say is, we don't want to be in shelter. We want to work. Let us work. And we have people saying, let us hire them. Now, the problem is that federal policy is getting in the way. And currently, if you come to this country as an asylee, you have to wait almost a year in order to be allowed to have work authorization. And because of that long tail that prevents people from coming and just starting to get to work right away, we are getting people that are not capable of supporting themselves economically, which then becomes a strain on our shelter system and on housing and other forms of supportive systems. So if we just unplug that situation, then we will not have the capacity and strain issues that we are presently having. People want to work, people want to put them to work. We need this. And many of us have experienced the consequences of the labor shortage that we currently have. Services are slower, it may take us longer to get things. We have seen an erosion in the quality of many services, and a lot of that is connected to a labor shortage that we have, which is for many, many, many contributing reasons and factors. But the point is that the jobs are there, and that we have people ready and to employ, and that we have people ready to just integrate into our society. And that has always been the American story. Almost every single one of us, in terms of the census in this district, almost every single one of us, with the exception of African descendants of slaves and indigenous peoples, are descendants of immigrants in this country. Every single one of us. And what we see is that in the past, how many of us have stories of an ancestor or people in past generations that came here with nothing on their back and they were able to get a job within a week, 2 weeks to a month? And that's how they started their life, and that's how many of our families started our story in this country. And so instead of burdening innocent and everyday people with so much bureaucracy, we should let people work while they wait for their asylum status applications. And so to that end, over the last several months, I have worked with the New York City congressional delegation, with Governor Hochul, with Mayor Adams, in order to lead on this issue. I led a letter to President Biden. We had the entire New York City congressional delegation sign it. I've been working with Governor Hochul, and believe it or not, even Republicans, there are governors of Republican states in places like Utah that are also supportive of state-sponsored parole policies. That's what it's called. It's called parole, in order to allow work authorizations. And you want to know why? If you look at places like Utah and in other states, their labor shortage has gotten so bad that they are rolling back child labor laws. They are rolling back child labor laws because they are so desperate to fill this. And so we are actually seeing that some Republican governors are starting to come out in support because we need people to work. We need people to work. And so COVID on a very core, basic level fundamentally changed a lot of the foundations of the US economy, from labor to infrastructure and so on. And the fact of the matter is that a lot of people say that there's no room and that there's no capacity. It's just not true. It's just not true. What we need to do is walk ourselves out of this logic that allowing people to pursue a life in America is somehow an incentive for immigration that is not needed. It is a xenophobic logic, to be frank, because the data is there and this is necessary. These are honest people, these are honest employers, these are small businesses, and this is what our economy relies on. And in fact, if you compare the US economy to other developing economies that are experiencing stagnation, what you are seeing is that the difference between their challenges. I was just in Japan and South Korea in February on a congressional delegation trip, visiting and discussing with my legislative counterparts over there on issues like trade and so on. And they are experiencing a population crisis. Seniors in Japan, the population of seniors in Japan have far outweighed the population of young people. People are not having families, people are not having kids. And they are experiencing serious economic challenges. What makes those challenges different in the US Why have we not encountered that in the same degree? Because we are a nation that welcomes immigrants to an unprecedented degree. And so that is why it is so essential and so critical that we really wrap our minds about this, get it together, because we can do this. And if there's any place in the United States of America that shows the promise and the resilience and the prosperity that is generated from a culture that welcomes immigrants, it's New York's 14th Congressional District, and it's the Borough of Queens. So we've been very strong about that. There are many other issues around this. I'd be happy to discuss it in the Q&A, but I wanted to share with you all the specific point that we've been really pursuing and leading on, because lawmaking is a team sport, as many people know, and so this is the one issue that we've really been drilling down on, because we know that once we can let people work, we can unlock potential here. So next up, we're going to be talking, I just want to talk to you all about passports really quick. If any of you have been in an airport recently, you might see that that travel is booming a little bit right now. I was in LaGuardia, not too far from here, when I was coming back last night, and one of the things that the folks are saying is we're pretty much back to either pre-COVID levels of travel, if not a little bit higher. And what that means is that a lot of people have had their passports in their desk or in their sundry drawer for a little while, and you might get invited to a wedding somewhere abroad. You may have to travel. You may want to go out this summer. Please check your passports when you go home and check their dates, because passport renewals are having a longer tail because everybody's rushing right now, okay, to renew those passports. So my recommendation is that go home, check your passports. If it expires within a year, just send out the application. Just send it out for renewal. It's better to renew it before you need it. If you have an issue with your passport renewal, you can contact my office. But what I will say is that if there is an emergency, right now, because of the volume that we're dealing with, we are first able to deal with life and death emergency issues. We are able to try to intervene and get that expedited. And then secondly, is that if your passport is outside that processing time, if you sent it and it's taken a really, really long time to get back, also please contact my office and we'll try to get it back and we'll try to renew your passport within that window. Right now, the routine wait period is 10 to 13 weeks, so about 3 months. And then the expedited wait period is 7 to 9 weeks. But again, these wait periods can expand if the requests start to rise, and we start to see that happen around the summertime. So we just want to express to you all, please renew your passport. We don't want you, stuck the week before your flight and you check your date and you realize your passport's expiring. And sometimes if you're flying too close to that expiration date, they still won't let you use it depending on the dates of your travel. So just a big old PSA there. We really want to make sure you all have that covered. And then lastly, I want to talk about tax credits, or rather two more things. I want to talk about tax credits. If you go to energy.gov/save, last year we passed something known as the Inflation Reduction Act. There's an enormous amount of pro-climate tax credits that are coming out. They are going to continue to roll out throughout the year. So these are some of the ones that have recently come out, that have come out first, but they may continue to come out through the rest of the year. So for clean vehicles, if you are interested in EV, there's an up to a $7,500 credit for new electric vehicles and a $4,000 credit if you're buying a used EV. For households, there is a 30% credit on residential solar installations. So if you're interested in installing solar in your home, you can get it 30% off as a credit. And then also you can get a 30% credit on heat pumps, windows, doors, etc. Heat pumps, I definitely recommend folks looking into. If you're in the market for a new air conditioning unit or something of that nature, a heat pump is an excellent way. It is very cost efficient, and they are newer technologies. They can save you a lot of money on your bill, and there's right now a 30% credit that we're rolling out on that. And then for commercial buildings, there are also major tax deductions as well. I would say keep taking a look at that energy.gov/save, because there are also expected tax credits on things like induction stoves and other kind of energy efficient appliances and small appliances as well. So those are more to come. And then lastly, I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the projects that we've been able to secure support and financing for right here around in the Corona area. The first thing that we did was that we were able to secure $663,000 for affordable housing run by Elmcor Housing. For those of you who may or may not know, Elmcor is a phenomenal multi-decade community organization that we have right here in Corona. We partnered with Elmcor a lot during COVID on food distribution and many other services in the community. And so we are now bringing on 30 supportive and affordable housing units online right here in Corona. We're really, really excited about that. Secondly, we secured $750,000 to open our first STEM preschool at the New York Hall of Science. And we actually just had our first class of preschoolers come through. So it's officially online, and we're so excited for our new STEM kiddos getting a phenomenal education. We did the ribbon cutting. It was phenomenal. In fact, last week, I had the privilege and the honor of meeting the NASA Artemis II team. For those of you who may not know, NASA is sending our first crew back to the moon, and we're going to have our first person of color on the moon, our first woman on the moon. We are incredibly excited about that. And so we are actually sharing with the Artemis II team about the STEM preschool that we have opened up, and it's just so incredible and exciting. And lastly, we secured $3 million right here at the Plaza del Sol as a Plaza del Sol expansion for Community Health Center. So they're going to be able to now implement additional reproductive health care, women's health care, and beyond, and make sure that we really expand those services for the community as well. So we're really, really excited. And these are just the 3 projects that we have here in the Corona area. We've also secured, frankly, dozens of projects across the district over time. The borough president mentioned we also secured a permanent location for Chaya CDC, which does a lot of immigration support and affordable housing access. And I'm so excited about what Chaya is doing, because they're actually taking the land and the building that they have purchased, and they're working on converting it into a community land trust. So what that means is that whenever they are in creating land for a community land trust, they are turning that land over to the community. And so what that means is that whenever there comes a day where they may want to move or may want to shift their location, that plot of land will be designated for community purpose. And so it doesn't just go back on the market for it to be sold, but that it becomes part of a larger trust of land that our community can decide how it can be used in the future. So we're really, really excited about that. Yeah. And I think that's our last slide. And so I think we're ready to open it up to Q&A. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Congresswoman, for your remarks. So how this is going to work, firstly, thank you to everyone who provided questions earlier. I know the slips might have been, a lot, but we have them here. And the way that this is going to work is I'm going to call your name. I'm going to provide you the slip, and you're going to come down here and meet me in the middle, and I'll provide you the microphone. The cord's a little bit short, so be careful. I don't want anyone to trip over anyone. So the first question is from Samantha Hoddington. If you can come down and ask the question, that'd be appreciated.
Thank you. Hi, Congresswoman. So I was wondering what you think is the best approach, either legislatively, but in general, to increase protections for undocumented workers in the workplace, specifically for to help them organize? Because I think that's very important.
Yeah, that's an excellent question. Thank you. You know, we've been having preliminary conversations, and I've had conversations with some of our union partners as well, because currently present law, as you kind of allude to, is that the present law, there's a lot of obstacles that prevent undocumented workers from formally unionizing. There's a lot of laws on the books that require certain levels of documentation in order to join a formal union. And so what we have seen under those present conditions is almost a parallel kind of worker organizing with undocumented workers that have already proven to be very powerful. I see we have NICE in the building, the New Immigrants Coalition, and so they do a phenomenal amount of work in starting to organize our undocumented community. A couple of years ago, our nail salon workers began to organize in the state, and they were able to secure unprecedented work condition protections and expansion protections in nail salons. So the first thing I want to say is that the current obstacles to formal union membership are obstacles, and we want to address them, but they do not make worker organizing impossible. And we have seen through the organizing happening in our community, the powerful, powerful gains that are happening when we bring these workers together. We also did a lot of this work with the Taxi Cab Coalition in order to secure unprecedented amounts of debt forgiveness for our taxi cab drivers who were targeted with predatory taxi medallion loans. Now, in terms of how we can actually support this, I think there's a couple of things. First, in the immediate sense, we can make sure that we start getting real dollars and support to some of those existing organizations, which is actually something that we've already done. We've secured a grant for NICE, a federal grant for NICE in their organizing, and they've been doing incredible, incredible work. Make the Road also is here, and they also do amazing work around organizing workers. And so what we've been doing in the short term is making sure that we marshal at least federal resources to those organizations that are doing that work. But in the long run, I think a big thing that we should be doing is also taking a look at some of those existing obstacles to formal union membership and seeing what we can do about that as well. And also one of the things this is also one of the reasons why work authorizations and our push on that as well is because really what this is always about is about actually securing a path to citizenship in this country and expanding a path to citizenship in this country, period. Solutions for the undocumented community, I believe, are always short-term and mid-term, because the long-term goal is to not have an undocumented community in this country and to have a dignified existence, and making sure that we have an expanded path to citizenship where people are able to come out of the shadows and we remove that avenue of exploitation. A big reason, and one big reason why there's such a high incentive to keep these laws off the books, is because it makes people more easily exploitable in the workplace. And that is one huge economic reason why we need to make sure that we actually create a path to citizenship and have really, really dramatic. I want, people say comprehensive immigration reform, but I think what is needed is way beyond reform at this point. We need to reinvent our immigration system, which was built on, frankly, the Chinese Exclusion Act and racist, it was built on racist principles of exclusion instead of actual principles of inclusion. And so, that I think is like what we're doing in the short term. We're marshaling resources, but in the long term, we are always and will never stop fighting for comprehensive immigration, expansion, reinvention. Thank you.
Thank you for that question. Next, we have Luis Colon. I see you, Luis.
While we wait for Luis, can we have a big round of applause for our ASL interpreters that are working so hard right now? It's not easy. We have multiple interpreters, handing things off, and they do such hard and incredible work. So we thank them so much for helping expand our accessibility. Thank you.
Good afternoon or good evening. First, I wanted to thank you for helping a friend of mine who came to your office and needed some help, and you did. And so I appreciate that.
Oh, of course. Thank you.
Great work. The thing that I wanted to ask, the question was, under the United States Constitution, the 14th Amendment, it specifically states that the validity of the public debt of the United States, authorized by law, including debts incurred for payment of pensions and bounties for services, shall not be questioned. So my question is this. This budget crisis is a made-up crisis. And it is against the Constitution of the United States. If we have budgeted and passed laws to incur these debts, then why isn't the Fourth Amendment being used now?
It's an excellent question. It's an excellent question. I think that the 14th Amendment should be used. I think it should be used. I believe that you're right. I think you're right. I believe the 14th Amendment should be used. I believe that the president has that authority. I have signed letters from the Progressive Caucus that have instituted and suggested as much. Now, what the White House is saying, I'm telling you what the White House is saying, okay, is that the president has come out saying that he also believes that he has this authority. What he has also said is that he is not sure if he is able to implement the authority in time for the June 5th deadline. And so that is where we see kind of this impasse. I still believe, first of all, that we should start to implement it anyway because we should eliminate the debt limit in the United States because of the constitutional. Now,
100 billion for Ukraine!
I will share
100 billion for Ukraine that you voted for.
And I will.
That's not a
I will share
pension
something.
plan.
I will share something.
Nothing to do
The
with
United
pensions.
States is the only nation in the modern developed world that even has a debt limit in this degree. There are only 2 countries where a debt limit exists at all, and the other one, it has been virtually permanently raised. So the United States is the only one that engages in this mess.
Why do we keep
and
going
whether
more
people
bankrupt?
agree with
How
what
will we
is going
increase
on
our productivity
or
as a
not,
nation?
and if people
We need Franklin Roosevelt
and if
policies.
folks
But we
and-
keep becoming more bankrupt.
and whether folks agree or disagree, the point
cutting the
is
budget
is
because
that
we keep
these
becoming more
expenditures have
bankrupt.
already been authorized. Period. End of story. They've been voted for. They've been authorized. I don't like that
You're
Republicans
cutting the
passed
budget by
a
not having a
1.7
real
trillion tax cut on the wealthiest people in this country. I don't like that we continue to expand our military budget. I don't like that we have
You voted for it!
Hey,
You voted for the military!
It's not your turn! How about you wait your turn?
let's settle down. Let's settle down. So there are plenty of programs that I loathe, but I also accept that we live in a nation of laws and that we live in a democracy. And sometimes my proposals don't get my way, and sometimes people elect Republicans and they do Republican things, and sometimes they elect Democrats.
Not about
And
Democrat
but I will not hold everyone's Social Security check hostage because I don't like what Republicans authorized 4 years ago. Because we have to be responsible, and that this mechanism is not the responsible way to go about those debates. We don't hold people's Medicare hostage. We don't hold people's Social Security hostage. We don't hold kids' food hostage. We don't hold SNAP, WIC, or any of that hostage. We just don't do it, and we will not do it.
Our veterans are being thrown out of shelters for migrants. Our veterans are being thrown out of shelters because there's more money being allocated for illegals.
That is exactly why we use paper slips. These things are very important.
Why you want to suppress
All right,
free
so
speech?
next, we're going to go with Susan James. Are you here, Susan?
Make sure she or he signed the white slip that you're throwing away because they had this. Hi there.
America first.
That's right.
Congresswoman, thank you for this opportunity to speak with you. I'm Susan James from Lebanon Street in West Bronx. Good to see you again.
Good to see you.
All right, so I am a constituent and a member of the Wampanoag tribe, and tribes throughout the East Coast are concerned with oceanic wind farms that the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management are set to approve. We don't feel that our concerns as tribal nations are being heard. Can you support?
So, first of all, thank you for coming. I'm really happy that you're raising this topic. As of January, I was just appointed to be a ranking member on the Natural Resources Committee, and which means I'm the lead Democrat actually on the Energy and Mining Subcommittee. And so this is my first time on this committee. I moved from financial services down to natural resources, and so we're diving in head first to a lot of these energy issues, everything from oil and gas to solar and wind. Now, one of the things that we're looking at is that this is an environmental justice issue. Regardless of the form of energy production, this is at its core a land use and a land questioning issue. So one of the things that, in terms of the specific development that you're looking at, I would be happy to engage the specific authorization, and we'd be happy to get the details on that to see what those concerns are. But, ensuring that we have full environmental justice concerns in project approval is something that is very important to me and to us. I will say I tend to focus a lot on oil and gas developments and other developments that tend to leak and pollute in communities where they get authorized, and we often tend to see those developments happen in underprivileged communities because wealthier and more privileged communities have the political power to say, we don't want this pipeline in our backyard, and so they push it out until it's in a community that is less advantaged, lower income, or more ethnically diverse, and then they don't have the same kind of representation or power or interest defending them. And so that's always something that we want to keep an eye out for. We'd be happy to engage some of the specific development site that you're discussing in order to see what those concerns are. So I'm sorry I can't speak to the greater specifics, but please make sure, and we have our staff here. Could my staff please raise their hands? We've got Gray there, we've got Alejandra there, we've got a bunch of, we have Noreen, Gerardo here. So these are folks that can help address specific policy issues, and please, if you could, please approach them, and we'll be happy to take that down. Thank you.
Next we got Joshua Palma. If Joshua can come over here.
Hello, Congresswoman.
Hi there.
Is there a plan in place to encourage businesses to make greener decisions, such as incentives for small businesses to invest in clean and renewable energy sources?
Yeah, so I would say right off the bat, some of the provisions that I put there on the slide with the energy.gov.state, there's a whole section for commercial rebates and tax breaks. There's a lot of money out there for helping businesses that might be reevaluating their HVAC systems or looking at their energy systems. There's a lot of money that we have available and set aside specifically for commercial purposes in addition to household purposes. So I would definitely push you in that direction. We also at the state level secured the BPRA, which was a major victory, and that has a lot of state level provisions.
Bobby, I got a question.
So, sorry, sir, we're taking the line. Sir, we're taking lines. Sir, we're having people write their names on a piece of paper. Thank you. commercial break. Brandon, round of applause for Brandon.
Hi, well, my mom right now, her union, their health benefits are right now being taken away from them. So is there like a way to get them back?
Is your mom a teacher by any chance? Or? Yes?
Yeah.
You're in the teachers union? Let's give her a round for his mom too, Brandon's mom. First of all, thank you for standing up for your mom. That is an awesome thing to do. Thank you for standing up for your mom's union. That's a very brave thing to do, very courageous thing to do. So here's a couple of things that are going on. If I have the situation correctly, and I'll take it if you want. Is it UFT? Yes. So, yes. So am I. Yes. So your mom's union is UFT, United Federation of Teachers. There's currently a bit of a back and forth happening right now. The union had healthcare benefits, and right now there is a conversation going on about transitioning those benefits to something known as Medicare Advantage. Now, a lot of people may see something known as Medicare Advantage on TV and advertisements for it, but Medicare Advantage a lot of times makes healthcare more expensive for people. It is marketed as more affordable or more efficient, but when you actually look at it, it's a way of privatizing public health care. And we don't want to do that. We're opposed to that. So in terms of what I'm doing, this conversation is happening at a city level, but I have come out in public opposition to this. I think it's very important to be in opposition to this. When you make a promise, you have to keep that promise. We don't go back on our promises in retrospect. We don't go back on those things. And people put in many years of hard work in order to retire with dignity. And that's a big thing that unions fight for, and that is something I'll never stop supporting. Thank you. I'll make sure to people look at it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next we got Ryan Graham. Here you go, Ryan.
What's going on?
Hi, how's it going?
Before I hop into my question, for you guys back there, especially you down there, are you a vet? Any of you guys vets? Did you serve?
We are. 20 years.
All right, please stop using a red herring. I served in Iraq. I apologize for going off topic.
No, please.
Because the fact is, immigrants have nothing to do with vets. It's just an excuse. If you want to talk, like I said, there's going to be other questions after this. We can talk. There's another vet in here. He's a friend of mine. You can talk to both of us. He served in Iraq and Afghanistan. And I know since all you guys are Corona, does anybody know Mike LaCorey? Raise your hands. Just so you know, I replaced Mike. Don't worry, Mike's still around. I'm the new commander of the post up over here. So we're going to be back up and running. COVID just messed us up. So like I said, if you want to talk afterwards, we can talk. In a very nice way.
Thank you.
Well, I actually have two questions, but I'll make it one. Do you foresee cuts to the VA budget?
So one of the things that was at risk here with this debt limit fight was cuts to the VA and cuts to those services. The good news is that we utterly raked Republicans over the coals for doing that. And in these negotiations, I do believe that we've been able to protect veteran services and the VA care so far. We are working to protect a whole slew of services, but among things that we've been able to really secure and protect away from cuts so far has been the VA and veteran services. And so, nothing is guaranteed until the ink is dry on that paper, but I can tell you that we have made that front and center form of protection, and so far it does look like we're winning on that. And
the economy has been collapsing for the last 40 years. It's Democrats and Republicans.
Quiet.
Take her out. Take her out.
Everybody speak.
We're not going to get a turn.
Thank you.
We're not going to get a turn. We're not going to get a turn, trust me. We're not going to get a turn, trust me.
Be civil.
We've been to these, we're not going to
All
get a
right,
turn.
but be civil. Let the man finish his thought.
You don't want to hear what we have to say. You don't want to hear what we have to say. No respect. I want respect.
Can we please stop interrupting?
Let the veterans speak.
Thank you.
You know what? We'll move on to the next question.
Let's do it.
Well, to the next person, but
No, please, I'd love to hear your second question. Yeah.
you know what? I just want to touch upon something she said earlier. And you know what? We all came, for the most part, we came here through Ellis Island. No. Shut up. Sit down. Shut
Our
up.
nation of law, she said it. Why don't we follow that law?
I'm talking. We all came through Ellis Island. Things are different. Things change over time. Shut up.
It's got to be in the Constitution. Constitutional premise in case.
Things are different. So, you know what? You know what? You want to talk? We'll talk after. You can go back to Fox News. All right. Second question.
All right.
Are you already strategizing, planning the upcoming NDAA items? I know last year, obviously we know each other. My wife is Colombian. She's not Paisa, she's Costeña. But I know there was a few things I saw in there. I know I spoke to Noreen. I thought these were great. The State Department funding for the Colombian military, obviously and I saw it firsthand.
Mm-hmm.
I spent like 6 months there over the past year and a half. And the aerial crop fumigation, perfect example, Agent Orange, and the U.S. government has been helping provide that.
Mm-hmm.
Or to Colombia to fumigate crops for coca plants. So this is something that's changed. But do you foresee, you already have a strategy in place for future NDAA items?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you so much for raising this question. The NDAA is usually authorized towards the end of the year. So the NDAA is the National Defense Authorization Act. This is a big part of where the military budget gets passed. And, my position is to reduce military spending. But one of the strategies that I've been pursuing over the last year is that knowing ultimately that even though it may not pass with my vote, and you can look up my record, I vote against it, but even though we don't approve of the current levels of funding, my strategy over the last couple of years has been to insert key amendments into the NDAA because we know that it's going to pass. And we try to adjust and make changes through this must-pass legislation. So what was alluded to earlier is one of the things that I had included in the House NDAA was to cut U.S. funding to Colombian paramilitary forces that have been abusing workers during the May Day uprising. That was something that we were able to secure in the NDAA. The other thing that we did with respect to Colombia was that the United States has been supporting something known as aerial fumigation to coca plants, which has been spraying a lot of toxic chemicals over largely indigenous communities to prevent the growth of coca plant. And so we have been working hard to cease that activity because it has been creating a lot of harm to poor and indigenous people. And we've also been able to fit that in the NDAA. Additionally, I have also passed amendments to support the study of psychedelics and psilocybin and MDMA in treating PTSD for our veteran community. And I've also been able to secure that in the NDAA, as well as securing toxic chemical cleanup from U.S. military activity on the island of Vieques in Puerto Rico as well. And so even though I do not support, in the end, the National Defense Authorization Act or a military budget, this is a massive document with so many provisions, so we might as well toss a couple of things in, right? Like the lobbyists do it, why can't we? And so that has been our approach. So in terms of our planning for that, usually what we do is that we partner with local communities, grassroots organizations, to figure out what some of those needs are. The NDAA usually passes at the end of the year. It's usually one of the last things that gets voted on. So it happens in December, right before Congress breaks for session. And so, but we are always taking input throughout the entire year. And so if there are any recommendations, if there are any things that we want to organize around, any funds that we can secure, any changes we can get, please reach out to my office. And if you have any grassroots organizations that you believe have really strong foreign policy proposals and things like that, please reach out to my office as well. So we're always working, and that process is, and that, by the way, is how we try to approach all of our legislating. I believe in, I'm a strong believer in bottom-up governance. And usually when you see my office proposing something into law, it's because we have worked with communities that have been trying to get it into the law. In my time, and I think it's important for you all to know this, in my time in the House, I have not taken a single lobbyist meeting, not one, not one. I do not take meetings with lobbyists. I do not take meetings with big business. I served on the Financial Services Committee. I had CEOs wanting to sit down with me personally before a hearing. A lot of times when that happens, they're asking you to not ask about certain things, or they want you to not approach it. I say no. I don't care how powerful you are. Money has no use in getting access to my office. And so that being said, that's how we approach all lawmaking, all legislating. So it's not just the NDAA, but we have government funding. So that's known as the appropriations process. Every single government agency, from the VA to Medicare to Social Security to the Department of Interior, National Forest Service, they all have to get authorized. And so if any of you all ever are organizing around a specific provision, we are happy to work around that and see if we can fit it in.
Are you going to stop the threat of nuclear war with Russia? We're sending if we send F-16s to Ukraine, we're on the verge of nuclear war. Is that okay? Are you going to stop this war? Okay, are you going to stop this war? That's my question. Are we going to? I'm sorry. Yeah, we know about the paper. Why are you afraid of your constituents?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I understand.
If you have a question, you can write it. You can write it down and submit it.
So thank you.
So you can
much.
write your question on the paper and submit it.
So thank you so much to our constituents for joining us in this very riveting, obviously very riveting evening. We want to thank, firstly, the Corona Arts and Sciences Academy, especially Mr. Britton Sappel, for hosting us. Thank you so much to our interpreters, Aldo Resendiz, Hillary Mercedes, Roshan Kub Ali, Sam Geffen, and MK Adams, as well as transcription services by Andrew Hansen and Wendy Moore. I can do this all day. You can always contact our offices by calling 718-662-5970.
I love the passion!
America last is right now.
I'm going to repeat the number again. It's 718-662-5970 if you would like to call the Congressman's office. If you would like to meet the Congresswoman, please form a line down the middle in a very orderly fashion. Just give me 1 second before everyone starts moving. If you would like to meet the Congresswoman, if you would like a photo, please line up in the middle, snake out to the left, and then, all right, just give me 1 second, y'all.
Thank you, everybody, so much. Thank you. We so appreciate it. Thank you.
Once the photo is taken, exit to stage right. And we have to be out of here by 7:40 p.m. That's a hard exit. That's a great exit. So thank you so much, y'all.
So he tried to maintain himself. He couldn't maintain himself at all.
Immigration, you don't know where you're standing. This is stolen land. This is stolen land. Stolen land. You don't know what district you are. You don't know what block you're on. Honestly, you don't know what block you're on. Undocumented. What are you gonna do about it?
Undocumented immigrants pay $40 billion in state, local, and federal taxes. They have much of a right in this country because they contribute to making our country great. That's why we love our immigrants.
What are you gonna do about it? Legal.
They still pay taxes. They pay taxes. That's why they contribute to this country and we love them. They still pay taxes.
She's an immigrant too. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. If you believe in free speech, why can't they have free speech? Neither did your family. Okay, neither did your ancestors come the right way. Please.
Yeah, it's Chinese.
Bye-bye. See you next time.
Hiding behind the flag. You're not patriots.
So it's going to be a quick picture and then out. And we have to be out by 7:40. Please don't ask any, intense policy questions. That's going to take too much time. So just take a picture and go.
Yes, exactly. Oh, you have to take them up 20 minutes only.
I wouldn't betray my constituents in that way, though, by giving myself a pay increase. She should be in Washington, D.C. right now speaking about the debt ceiling. She should be in D.C. talking about the debt ceiling, not being in Japan. Right.
To get more money from us.
Right.
To enslave us.
Of course.
he having a shit show here and come and stop.
That's right. Notice, they're not going to ask any of the hard questions. Whatever town hall you go to with her, she always asks her people. She knew the vet, she knew the other people. They know exactly who they're going to pick for the questions. Nothing about.
All right, I'm taking a moment to talk with Marianne Pizzitola, who happened to be at this town hall given by AOC in Corona, Queens, and some of the things that she was talking about were very relevant to issues that you've been working on with healthcare and Medicare Advantage. Do you want to explain a little bit why you came to this meeting today and why that's relevant to you?
Well, it is. She did an op-ed a couple of weeks ago in the New York Post, and we thought it was important that since she's expressed her opinion that she supports what we're doing. She's against privatization of Medicare, a public health benefit, and she supports our fight against Medicare Advantage. The city retirees, New York City municipal retirees that I'm representing under the New York City Organization of Public Service Retirees is they're being forced into Medicare Advantage. So we have filed lawsuits. We keep winning. We just won yesterday again the injunction that we filed on the class action copay case. The city appealed it, Emblem appealed it, and we won yesterday. We go back to Supreme Court. And so we're working to make sure that we get as many congressional people to get together and work with us, because we are in this situation, this auto-enrollment of retirees around the country into Medicare Advantage plans because of a federal rule that we're trying to roll back. And that's where she comes in.
And do you think that her support is going to be influential for you?
I hope so. If both the left and the right both believe that we need to protect Medicare for American citizens who have been paying through their taxes since their very first paycheck when they started working in their life into the Medicare system, and is against privatizing it in order to protect it from going to for-profit insurers, then we all need to get together and do this.
Because you have had support from some
left,
Republican,
right, everywhere, yes.
Members of city
But
council.
you know what that says? That to me is exciting, because it says that healthcare is a human right and it's not a political fight. I don't make this argument political. Left, right, I will talk to anybody. And if we get into the issues about what this is about, politics, it's not politics. This is healthcare. You need healthcare, I need healthcare, he needs healthcare, everyone needs healthcare. And these are city workers that work their entire life under the promise that they would have premium-free healthcare for the rest of their life, because they gave up lower wages in order to have this healthcare benefit. So to have a congresswoman come out and say we support what you're doing is huge to us.
All right, so a rare issue where we see the two sides coming together.
Yes, it is. It's a beautiful thing, though, right? You want bipartisan support for things like this. This tells you we are on the right side of this, and the people that are pushing against us are not. So,
all right, thanks for coming.
Great to see you always.
I want her to meet my family there.
Oh boy, you are really serious about this. I would like to say thank you to the other friend.
I just want to expose her to the two-faced liar when I get I have plenty to say about crime. NYPD,
what would you like to say?
CompStats.
Because you were a vocal person here.
Right, crime is going up.
Issues,
crime is going up in the city. Yeah. She's a criminal coddler. She sympathizes with criminals. She's not doing anything to make our streets any safer. She hacked away at the police budget. Police officers are resigning at record levels. There's no way to fill their ranks, and I just wanted to know what she was going to do about it. Our taxes are going up. Crime is going up. The infrastructure is decaying. Small businesses are closing in our communities. What are we supposed to do? And we're worried about the war in Ukraine. We're worried about drag queen story hour in our schools. Does that have any substance to the quality of life issues that we're facing today? How is that substantive in my daily life? I have a baby boy. There's carjackings. The Dunkin' Donuts near my house got robbed at gunpoint 3:30 in the morning. Police take forever to respond now because they're so short-staffed. What is she doing about making our communities safer?
What would you like to see her do? Because she's
instead
of
defunding,
right?
But she voted for some of these policies, right?
Like
to gut. She gutted the budget. She took over $1 billion away from the New York City Police Department. Let's have some of that money roll back. Let's have some of that money roll back in to keep us safer. Put more police on the streets. Let's fix the roads. Let's give tax breaks to, she has an issue with the 1%. Fine, you have an issue with the 1%ers. What about the small business owners? What about the owners that are making $300,000 or less, that have multiple employees, over 10 employees? What are we doing about them? The businesses are closing. We can't keep blaming COVID and the supply chain issues. COVID is over. The federal government has agreed on that. How is she going to help the small businesses? The answer is not to allow more illegal migration into New York. It's not. Democrats know it. Republicans know it. They both want illegal migrants. The Democrats want it for votes. The Republicans want it for the cheap agricultural laborers because there's lobbies on that side of the fence as well. So I would say I'm very moderate. I could see through the BS on both sides. But at the same point in time, she was speaking about having the illegal aliens, the undocumented workers. She's done absolutely nothing for DACA in her terms in Congress. Absolutely nothing. And I have a lot of friends that are part of the minority community. She's done absolutely nothing for them. This is all fluff. This is all verbal massaging. But us, the people who live in her district, we're feeling the pain. And she's not doing anything about it.
All right, thanks for commenting.
Thank you.
You should see the back room. Louise finished today. They knocked out the hardware that was there, like the shell and the countertop. It looks so much more open. You could actually sit. Let's go for it. Oh, good guy. Good riddance. Oh, that's so cute. I didn't see that before. First exit and my house is like 2 blocks away. So I'm like right by the house. She walks to the water in my neighborhood. So I'm right there. Right there. But, and you can see Queens. So I don't live very far. It's not like
I just want to know more about the debt ceiling because this fight is just crazy and the ramifications are big. But I'm just glad there's at least a plan to make sure that the debt ceiling fight doesn't hurt Americans. At least there's a plan. We'll see how it works out. But I just want to make sure I knew that.
So is that that's kind of your top issue, why you were interested in this?
Well, for this town hall, yeah, that's why I wanted to come. I've been to other town halls before about the Justice Society, about the Green Deal for public housing, about how to address Corona. It was like, if there's something I wanted to ask, I wanted to come. So this was about the debt ceiling, about coming in like next week or two. So I just wanted to know more about that.
What do you think are the critical issues for you in the district right now?
I mean, we need to make sure we support our businesses. We have to support our immigrant population. We just got to make sure that everyone gets what they need. And I think this is a district that deserves the best.
All right, thank you.
Anytime.
Sorry, you have to be out in 5 minutes. So, can't get to the pictures.
His nephew here, but worked on her, and Madame who have been smoking for my sister going for his fuck you.
Why? Because she's probably getting emails from your former union that's making it appear to be a W. So if she had my email, she knows she had those. There it is. I got that. This is what happens when you change conflicts. So she can sign up, or you can sign up for our email. Sorry.
Oh yeah, we're not going there. Yeah, we're not going there.
But yeah, I mean, I
use for humor.
I'd really like to see her out-of-pocket expenses not go up.
And they would increase because right now we just won yesterday in appellate court.
Sorry, we have to go, so we're not going to be able to get to the picture. The school's going to kick us out. We just have like a small picture.
Like a high five.
And we started to play.
And thank you for the kind words. I'll tell her to look into it. You know, it's important. The number of minutes in the day is not being up to
I'm like, those chairs are heavy.
Yes, we'll help you out. I'm so sorry, folks. We're not going to be able to get to everyone. We are going to have to wrap it up.
And we've been saying from the beginning of the Congress.
Make it a group photo.
We'll help you clean up. We're hard to get abundantly shared. We're not going to get paid overtime. So he's like, y'all going to be
I didn't hear the beginning, but that's probably what she said. Not going to give my name if I don't have to.
That's no problem. So we're
Okay.
here at the town hall, and I'm asking people why they came and what are the most pressing issues in your mind.
There's a lot of pressing issues in my mind. I am one of her constituents. I live in Astoria, so I'm in Congressional District 14. I really disliked her predecessor, and I was dying for him to get out of office, and then she primaried him, and I voted for her just because she was primary challenging him. No one expected her to win, least of all him, least of all her, but she won. Then I started to find out who I had voted for, and buyer's regret. She said a couple of things tonight that were not true, and she ducked a couple of things. And I wanted to ask her about some of that. For instance, she talked about this debt ceiling crisis is like such a big deal. There were 3 in the last administration. There are 13 that I can remember. There have been, I think, 20 in my adult life. This whole thing about the debt ceiling crisis is a disaster. It's going to bring an end to the world. Children are going to go hungry. We're taking the milk out of babies' mouths. None of that is true. Government shutdowns, we've been through government shutdowns. When she was seated in the Congress, we were in the middle of a government shutdown. So I don't want to hear it. She's so concerned about a government shutdown, forego your pay.
Sorry, it's really all right. We'll be okay.
Which she promised to do when she was a Congresswoman-elect, but then when she was seated, she reneged on that. You want to save money? Okay, don't take any pay while the government is shut down. The bit about the immigration, it's politically incorrect to say that there's any difference between legal and illegal immigration. My father was an immigrant, a legal immigrant. He came with permission. He had a sponsor. His sponsor promised to keep an eye on my father to make sure that he wasn't a criminal and wasn't going to be a ward of the state. People coming in now are coming in illegally, and there's no such promise. My father spoke 3 languages when he got off the boat. English was not one of them. He made a point of learning English. What we've got now is a huge number of immigrants, illegal immigrants, who are not assimilating. They're not learning English. And I understand how immigrants are good for our economy, but you can have too much of a good thing. If you have a headache and you take 2 aspirin, you will feel better. If you take 12 aspirin, you're going to get tinnitus and eventually go deaf, and you're going to punish your stomach. If you take 100 aspirin, you're going to kill yourself. It's possible to have too much of a good thing. So, all right, we got immigrants coming in who can take the jobs that are unfilled. When do we stop? How many is too many? We've taken 2.5 million people in the last 2.5 years. Is that enough? Do we stop at 3 million? Do we stop at 5 million? Do we stop at 10 million? What's the limiting principle? Nobody wants to say anything about that. And when we talk about immigration reform, give me one specific. One specific. We will not take people of X background, X age, X origin. We will limit this. Give me one specific. What we've got right now is on a parole to come back for a court date. At the moment, the court dates for the people who've crossed the border in the last week is in the year 2035. I wish I was making that up. I've been to the border. I've been to Texas 4 times in the last 2 years. I've been to places where you can see paths carved in the dirt where the illegals came across and discarded things along the way. You can tell that they've been through there. Now the latest thing is they're discarding their ID so they can, not be sent back to where it is they came from. And they're not all coming from Mexico. They're not all coming from Central America. They're not all coming from South America. We got people coming from Asia. We got people coming from Africa. We got people coming from the Middle East. They're showing up without identification. Where does it end? She wants to cut the defense budget. I'm a veteran. I would love to see the defense budget cut. I've seen so much waste in the Defense Department. I'd love to see the waste cut. But when I hear cut the defense budget, I'm waiting for specific. What are you going to cut? Let's cut the F-35 Joint Strike Fighter program. Great, I'd love it. I'm not hearing that from her. There are so many things we could cut. And also, let's punish the people who waste money. The Navy's littoral combat ships were a multi-billion-dollar boondoggle. We're retiring them. They don't work. They're fragile. They're a bad design. Show me a Navy captain or an admiral who's getting demoted for that. Show me a contractor who is being barred from further government business because he sold us a bill of goods. Show me a construction yard that built those ships that we're saying, you stink, we're not buying your ships anymore. Where's the punishment? There's so much waste. But I'm not hearing waste. I'm hearing cut the military budget. Let's hear some more of it.
There were people here protesting her support for spending in Ukraine. Is that something that you're
I didn't hear any of that particularly. I am in favor of us supporting the Ukrainian military because what they're doing is destroying the Russian military, which is doing us a big favor. I don't care about how much money it costs. It's a bargain. However, I would like to see more accountability. I don't want it to be a blank check. I would like to see an invoice, a bill, a receipt. The money we are spending, X million, X billion dollars. How many missiles? How many tanks? How many bullets? How many artillery rounds? How many cannons? How many airplanes? All I'm seeing is number figures. So I'd like some accountability. I still think we should support them. But if you don't show me the receipts, that suggests to me that some of it's finding its way to places it shouldn't go. So it's nuanced.
Let me ask you about what you were saying about immigration, because Queens is, they call it the world's borough. We are here in the middle of...
My father was an immigrant.
Of Queens, your father was an immigrant. But if there's one place in New York City that has lots and lots of immigration, of new immigrants living all together from all different countries, it's Queens. So do you see this as a local, do you see the increase in immigration as a local issue? Do you think things have changed?
It's both a local issue and a federal issue. The problem with the local issue level is that there is a great deal of disingenuity. People are being disingenuous. They're acting like there's no difference between legal immigration and illegal immigration, and there is a difference. But all of a sudden, we're a neighborhood of it. And this is probably the most diverse neighborhood.
What is a difference for you? Because there was a woman saying earlier,
the illegal immigrants came with...
They pay taxes, they contribute all the same
things. The legal immigrants came with permission.
Mm-hmm.
Permission. How many people do I have in my house? Can I let more people in my house? Yes, but not without my permission. Also, vetting. Before my father came, he came from a country that had a government. The government stank and the economy stank, but they were able to ask his country's government, is this guy a criminal? And they were able to get an answer. We had millions of people coming in. We don't know who they are. They're going away their identification. They're coming across saying, I'm John Doe, translated into whatever language they speak. We don't know. We don't know. Now, people say, they're wonderful, honest people. And chances are, the very vast majority of them are exactly that. But we don't know. Which one of them, if there's 1 in 100, if there's 1 in 1,000 who's a dangerous criminal or a terrorist, we don't know who it is. And you'd say, 1 in 1,000 isn't a lot, but you just let in 400,000 people, that's 400 terrorists. There's a difference. We need to know who these people are. Now, I don't want to create a huge bureaucracy, but I want to hear a limiting principle. Okay, we took 2.5 million. When we hit the 3 million mark, we're going to close it.
Bye, Michelle. Thank you so much for everything.
They're going to kick us out now.
Yes.
But I mean, it's not that I hate immigrants. I'm not a xenophobe. I speak 4 languages. Can I ask them to learn English? Can I ask where they came from?
Why do you think that's important for people to learn English?
Unifying factor. I've worked as a paramedic. I get to the scene and I want to know what's going on. And I want to know what's going on so I can help you, possibly save your life. You need to speak to me in a language that I speak. Now, I speak 4 of them. Most paramedics don't. And you can't pick and choose. You can't say, this guy speaks German and he'll be able to tell you the problem in German. Well, what about this guy? What about the other paramedic who doesn't speak German? We need a common tongue. Maybe in a generation it'll be Spanglish. But in the meantime, you got to be able to talk to the cops. You got to be able to talk to the teacher, your kid's teacher. You got to be able to talk to your kid's teacher. You got to be able to talk to the paramedics. You got to be able to talk to the firefighter. Where's this smoke coming from? No English. Stuff is on fire, and you can't tell them. I don't care what you speak at home. I don't care. I don't care if you speak to your buddy on the block in any language that exists. But when someone says, excuse me, can you help me? You need to speak a common tongue. You're on the side of the road with a flat tire and someone pulls over and wants to help you. You can't tell them what's wrong because you don't speak English. Or because he doesn't speak English. We need a common tone. It's not our official language, but we need a common tone. And we are admitting millions and millions of people who don't speak English. We can't have a society if we don't communicate. I'm not even requiring that people agree with each other. You need to be able to communicate. How much does that cost? I would like to buy. We need that. And like I said, my father, English is not easy, but he learned it.
All right. Well, I really appreciate you talking with me in American English here.
What is your YouTube channel?
And I'm gonna give you the information. I'm gonna show that we are closing down the house here. And we did not have the opportunity to ask a question of AOC once again.
I've been to her office, but I have not.